The heart is deceitful above all else. Who can understand it? And as someone who has never liked feeling, I'm like, yes and amen. 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 I've known that since I've been a little girl. Feelings are terrible. And now the Bible has just told me what I already knew. And so now I can tell other people, you gotta think and you gotta act. And if you have to feel, let your feelings be guided by what you think about the Bible and what you act out of the Bible. And really, if I had to be honest, I don't trust my feelings. I don't trust your feelings. Therefore, let's shelf our feelings. Great. Nice talk. Our question today is that really what Jeremiah the prophet is saying? Is he saying the heart is deceitful above all things equals do not trust your feelings? Is that what God intends us to get out of this verse? Let's see if we can figure this out. I'm having to sit here and tell myself, Melissa, stick to the point. I love Jeremiah so much that I want to start at the beginning of the book. Keep it simple, Melissa. Keep it simple. We're here to look at verse 9 and 10. But watch me. I do want us to just vaguely understand what's happening in the chapter because we never want to go to just one verse without at least somewhat understanding the context of who is saying it, why are they saying it, who are they saying it to. This is Jeremiah the prophet, the weeping prophet. He lived in such a terrible time in Judah's history. This is when the southern kingdom of Judah was exiled to Babylon. Jeremiah did not go to Babylon. He stayed back in Judah. And all the weeping was for the suffering of his people. The temple was destroyed. It was a terrible time in the Israelites' history. And Jeremiah is now speaking to them. He's telling them in chapter 17, your sin is that you're worshiping, you're trusting other gods. You're trusting in human flesh. You're trusting in gods that cannot save you. This is the problem. This is why God's wrath is on us. This is our sin. It's not like the cheeriest chapter in the whole world. The prophets typically never are, but I do love them. So let's start in verse 9. This is the one that we hear quoted all the time. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Some translations would say the heart is sick beyond all things and has no cure. Who can understand it? All right, let's pull it up here where we can look at it, or I can look at it with you. The first thing that we need to know is describing something, and we want to know what is the subject of these two sentences. What is Jeremiah describing? The subject of this verse is the heart. Now, Jeremiah is describing the heart, so he's giving us words to describe the problem of the heart. The heart is deceitful, it's sick, and not just sick, it is incurably sick. Who can understand it? That would mean, this is implied, I can't understand it. I can't understand the depth of the sickness of the heart. You can't understand the depth of the sickness of the heart. You can't understand my heart. I can't understand your heart. There's a big problem here. Now, what we have to pause here before we move further is we have to ask the question, okay, it's going to seem like a dumb question, but it's one that we should be asking all the time as we're reading the Bible. What does he mean by heart? Does he mean feelings? Does he mean passion? Because that's what we in our Western culture will think that heart means. It just means how you feel, how you love. We view the heart as like the seat of all emotions. I can feel love, I can feel angry, I can feel bitter, I can feel jealous. And these feelings just sort of like go up and down. I can't really control them. They can cause a lot of problems. So then when we read this, we think, bingo, I knew it. I knew I couldn't trust these feelings. But is that what Jeremiah is saying? We can do a really quick search on this. I'm going to pull up Blue Letter Bible. I'm going to get to Jeremiah 17, and we're just going to do a really quick interlinear search on heart. I'm just clicking that blue 9 for the verse. It'll pop up a menu, and I'm going to choose interlinear concordance. Now, the only thing that I am going to do is I am looking at Strong's Concordance. I want to see how they define what it means, what is the biblical sense, the biblical usage of the word heart. This is something that I've studied before, so it's familiar to me, but it's all right here. We're going to look in two places to make sure and double check ourselves, to make sure that we're seeing this correctly. We've got number 1, the inner man, mind. Well, that's strange. Will, heart, understanding. The innermost part, the midst. Now we see as it goes further down, you can see heart, seat of appetites, seat of emotion and passions, seat of courage. We've got on Roman numeral 4, do you remember that back in the 5th grade? Roman numeral 4, mind, knowledge, thinking, reflection, memory. The biblical use of heart is much more holistic than what we as Western thinkers think. When Jeremiah says heart, he is not saying feelings. He is saying your whole inner being, your mind and how you think, your heart and how you feel, and your passions and your desires. He is saying your moral character, what you do, every part of us. It's worse than just our feelings. It is all of us. And just so you don't think I'm pulling this out of nowhere, I like to, after I've done my own thinking, I never go to commentaries first, ever. But after I've done my own thinking, I will double check myself using a commentary. So let's go to text commentary. And I really like David Guzik. And so I'm going to go to his. Now, you can go find this on your own. I'm not going to read all of them. But if you'll notice, under B, I love a good outline. Under B, we've got Roman numeral 1. David Guzik is just quoting another biblical scholar. And this is what Feinberg says. In the Old Testament usage, the heart signifies the total inner being, including reason. From the heart and the mind and the inner reason and the intellect come action and will. Do you see how that question is dangling at the end of verse 9? You have to keep reading. This is much of the Bible. We can't just stop and think, there, got it. It's in black and white. See, that's what it means. That may not be exactly what it means. Verse 10 gives us such a clear picture. Here's the answer to who can understand it. I, the Lord. Oh, it's Yahweh. In all caps. That's how we know that's Yahweh. I, Yahweh, examine the mind. I test the heart to give each according to his way. Hands. According to what his actions deserve. Head, heart, hands. One does not trump another. It doesn't. They must work in unity. They feed into one another. When this is how we're interpreting this verse, that we can't trust our feelings, but we can trust our mind, here's what we're not taking into consideration, is that a mind and knowledge can be corrupt. A heart and feelings can be corrupt. Actions can be corrupt. The point is, my mind is to be submitted to the will of God. My heart is to be submitted to the will of God. My hands are to be submitted to the will of God. Here's why I'm harping on it. Because some of us, like me, the teacher types, have told, far too many people I have told, you must think first. That leaves those who do not think first confused, frustrated, defeated, feeling shame, because they don't think they can do the Bible right. I know I'm repeating this over and over. We must stop insisting that people transform and experience God and the Bible and study the same way that we do. And that we actually learn from them. So not only do we stop judging them, we want to learn from them because they have skills and ways of feeling and doing and thinking that have never occurred to us. There will be so much more transformation in us if we learn to leverage a diverse community around us that think, feel, and do differently than us. Now, here's the caveat. The thinking, feeling, and doing is fully focused on God and His Word and obeying and submitting and humility and faith and belief. And that we are people that are making sure, no matter which order, that all three are present. Are you guys tired of head, heart, hand yet? I have been deeply thinking about this for a year. And so this is the first time I'm articulating it. And so this is me learning how to articulate this because this will be, I think, foundational to what we're doing in Bible Lab. Bible Lab is growing, meaning it's morphing into something that Andy and I did not see coming. It's looking more like maybe like a year-long program where it's broken up into 6 parts that you can do 4 weeks at a time throughout a year with a collective of other women in your circle to transform together with the Bible and God at the center. We are still testing and exploring and creating it with a group of women that I am so deeply grateful for. But we're recognizing that this head, heart, hands will be central in how we act out the Bible. And so I'm looking for your feedback. I'm looking for what doesn't make sense or where you're confused or where you disagree. All of this is good information for me. I'm not saying I won't go into debate mode because I love to debate. I've lost all my debating friends, and so I'm left to just debate with myself. And if you want to debate, I think it's so fun. Next week, we are finally going to finish verse mapping part 3. I'm going to show you real simply, after study, what it looked like to conclude, to use my mind and to conclude, where my heart needed to submit to Psalms 90, and then what my hands, the action, what's on the outside of my body, what I decided to do in relation to Psalms 90. And I knew when I did this thing, I'm like, my friends are going to hate this. My husband is going to hate this. Here's their responses to me telling them what my practical application was for Psalms 90. They didn't like it.
No. That's just as depressing as all get out.
I'm very concerned.
Oh my gosh. I actually kind of love it.
This is very typical you. This reminds me of when you started wearing black all the time.
Melissa, I'm dying.
I mean, and honestly, it's very you.
That's where we're going next week. I'll see you then. If you're wondering what in the world all this head, heart, hand stuff is, here is a playlist where you can find out more about that. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you do so. You can just click this right here, and I will see you next week.